Good morning. Welcome to Made by Me with Grey Roots. I'm Laura, Programs Coordinator here at Grey Roots Museum and Archives. Today we are going to talk about pulling some strings. So this is a very interesting activity. There was a lot of learning that went on through the different steps to develop the craft. And I'll talk a bit more about that when we start working on it. Because there's also a lot of different variations that you can do with your activity. So one of the most interesting things though about this activity is all of the boards that we have for the craft were sawn in our sawmill here on site at Morrison Heritage Village. So we were really excited to be able to use the boards that were sawn here. And one of the things we do need to be careful about though is because they are fairly rough sawn, is to watch out for getting splinters and things like that. Now, your boards are a bit smoother than that one. That was my very first one, but we still need to be careful a bit. So these ones were sanded down a bit with a plane sander, but we just need to be very, very careful. And then I'll talk about some issues that might pop up. But one of the most important things for this activity, besides the board, are actually the nails. And for this one, we are going to go visit our blacksmith Adrian over in the our Pioneer blacksmith shop, and while she makes a nail and shows us how it's done. So let's go visit Adrian now.
Hi, my name's Adrian Wagner, and I'm a summer engagement student at Grey Roots Museum and Archives. If you've been to the village in person, you may have seen me around. Now, today, we're in the 1850s blacksmith shop, and I'm going to show you how a nail gets made. Our nail starts its life off as an ordinary rod of metal. Next, it's off to the fire. Our piece of metal needs to be incredibly hot to be easily worked with. Once it's up to temperature, I take it over to the anvil and begin to square off the edges. The nail is starting to take shape. Once I'm happy with the nail, I test it in the tool we use for making the head to make sure it fits. If it doesn't fit, it's back to the anvil. This nail is nearly finished. I only have a few things left to do, like pointing the tip on the end of the nail. Now, I'll be using this cutting wedge to finish off the head of the nail. Right now, I'm thinning out the top of the nail so I can easily bend it off the rest of the metal. Just a few quick whacks with the hammer, and the nail is finished. Time to quench it so I don't burn myself. And that is how a square head nail is made. Thanks for joining us and learning all about how nails are made.
Okay, so this was the initial attempt with the string art. So this pattern that I created is called the escarpment one. So it has like some cloud layers, a blue sky, the tree line above and below the escarpment rock, some nice Georgian Bay water, and then there is a little bit of a tree form, a bit of a pine tree. For this one, as we were looking at it, there are a lot of nails, and I'm sure you're looking at these nails and thinking, those are different than the nails I have in my kit. And they are. So because this was one of the first ones I tried, I kind of just I bought the nails online. I was like, I'll try these out. And the smaller nail heads, while I can fit more nails together, it was really difficult getting the embroidery thread to stay, just because the nail heads were so small that they just kept kind of popping off. So from this, we got the nails that you have, which are more roofing nails. So for this one, which is the wildflowers one, it's kind of a lot. There's a lot of nail heads. There were so many nails that it was starting to split the board. And one of the most important things when you're planning out what your piece is going to look like is to make sure and adapt your pattern to your piece of wood. So for this one, I definitely would have limited the number of nails along the sides just because there obviously was like a stress line. You can see that more on the back. So like it's not terrible. It's just there was a lot of nails. So because again, I play around with this. I'm never happy with things. The one that I'm going to demonstrate on today, and I'll set this actually aside. This one I did last night. So to start though, prior to last night, I did have some wood carving tools. So I did kind of carve out a bit of the Black-Eyed Susan. And so that when I added some color, because one of the things with the larger nails I found that I wanted to explore doing just the edges rather than doing the crisscross just because there's not a lot of space because of the nails. So I wanted to just kind of do the outlines and then I wanted to fill in. So I used paint. You could use paint, you can use stain, kind of whatever you want your piece to look or how you want it to look. And then I just kind of planned out what I wanted to do. So one of the things that I've noticed for doing the petals, I really like doing kind of like a rhombus or a diamond shape. That turned out pretty well on this one. So I could do, this one's a little bit more of like a narrow rhombus, but I'm just playing around with that and playing around with how the center of the flower could look as well. So there is going to be some trial and error. I definitely would sketch out. I know I included the patterns for you. Just make sure it fits on your board and how you kind of want it to look. So especially like with this one, I have the flowers. I dropped the number of petals down to only 3 that I'm going to kind of mark off with the thread, the flowers, and then this organized chaos are the stems and the leaves. And for this, compared to this other one, one of the things I was having trouble with on this one, and I don't know if it's just, oh, there are different sizes of boards. They're different thicknesses. I definitely found that the nails were bouncing out of this one, but I had no problems with this one. So I don't know, I just figured it was just a humid day, but it might have just been the thickness of the board. So if you are having any problems at all with your board, just please reach out to me and let me know. And again, with this one, you can do the thread in whatever order you like. I was starting, and that included with this one, I started with the furthest back and then went forward. And then I did the sun last. So it was the sky, the escarpment, then I did the tree lines, the water, then the foreground, and then the sun. So it's kind of whatever you want to do, but I'll demonstrate with the purple cone flower. So if you had done the rainbow dreaming, this is very similar to that activity. So all I'm going to do is tie one end to one of the purple parts. And I'm going to make sure that I have a bit of a tail because that's what I'm going to connect the other part to, the end to. So all I'm going to do, because again, I'm just focusing on doing kind of the outlines, and I'm going to make sure it's tight so it stays up and it definitely looks 3-dimensional. So I'm going to do each because I'm gonna end up at the back over here, I'm just going to double back and finish all the other petals before I go back around. But you're welcome to even just take each petal on its own. It's totally up to you how you want to do it, because again, this is yours. And then go. So I'm going to go back down here and finish this one. And if there's anything you even want to like include, you can add a bit more detail to your pieces. That was caught up. So again, you can quickly go back and change things if something is not very tight. But and then I'm gonna go back over here. And one of the nice things with this is you do have quite a bit of thread. So if you wanted to, you could go again. Or you can completely kind of add more nails. If you have some smaller nails at home that you want to try, you could do that as well. Just again, it will, the smaller nail heads will mean that there is a bit of possible movement. So there you have your flower petals, and then you can do your flower top. And then with this, all I did was create some different possible shapes for the stem. So I'm going to take some time later today to finish this. But if you have any questions or concerns or any issues with your board, don't forget to reach out to me. And I'm really curious to see what you can create with your very own Morriston song board. But thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you have a really great time crafting.